Good afternoon. We are about to enter week 11. I have to warn you, I'm recording this at home, so I have no idea how this is going to sound. Let's see. Um, so I just wanted to touch back a little bit from last week's discussion. There was a couple of things that I thought were interesting that I wanted the class to hear as a whole. So one of the questions I'd asked you was about, rating sites like Yelp and Amazon and Rate My Professors, etc. And so one thing I wanted to share with you is that there is another librarian in our library, my library, with the last name Ewing, who is not related to me. And so I can't remember, was it Pick a Prof that used to exist before, but one of those sites about professors, and it had my name, but it was talking about him. It was just like, well, I hope nobody reads that because it wasn't anything like terribly bad, but just like he's a really hard grader, and I'm like, I don't think anyone's called me that. Anyway, it was just amusing. So you do have to be careful about those sites. But I think most of you who had written on that topic or responded to other people's posts, expressed that sort of like cautionary note that a negative review about a professor could be for any number of reasons, including the student just didn't get a very good grade. And another thing that came out is when we talked about intuition as evidence that um, if you think back to the book and the chapter 8 that talks about intuition, I'm trying to find that page real quick here. It's on pages 96 and 97. And for the most part, intuition is sort of like, kind of dicey as evidence because you can't really prove it. But there are some cases when intuition is appropriate, and this is how they talk about it. They say intuition may, in fact, be relying on some other kind of evidence, such as extensive, relevant personal experiences. And so, what that might mean is that you've just processed a lot of information very quickly. So I think, and this came out in some of your discussions. I think driving is a good example of this because as you get more experience with driving, you are processing a lot of information at once. And one example that I've given before is, the more you drive, the more you're alert to signs that somebody's going to come into your lane without putting on a turn signal, even though there's nothing that tells you this. But you've just learned to process this sort of like they come closer to the lane marker, and you sort of see them look over, but they don't really look over. I mean, anyway, I just think that driving is a very good example of sometimes you use your intuition as evidence. So, chapter 10 is, are there rival causes? And one of the things that I do personally around this one, there, I'm trying to figure out a way how to say this, but with this one, it helps me, this technique is something that helps me not be so negative about other people. Can't say I'm 100% successful about it, but instead of like always assuming, somebody does something, that you don't agree with and assuming the worst of them, I try to think of like alternate explanations for it, even though my first, take may be correct. If I think of those alternate or interpretations of their behavior, then I'm less likely to be angry. And a lot of times it's just like, these are people I don't even really know. Why am I so upset about what they've done? And so it's easier just to come up with an alternate explanation for their behavior. I do want to give you a heads up about a couple of assignments. So I posted assignment 4 in D12. It's due on April 11th. It's the same kind of thing we've been doing before, where you have some passages to read. I do want to stress again with this that when I'm asking you to give me the conclusion, I want you to give me the conclusion that is in the passage, not what you think the passage is saying, but what the passage is actually saying. And then I'm teasing yet again the web evaluation assignment, but I am going to give you some details about it. What we're going to do is it's 2 parts, and we just have to do one more review of the content to make sure it's sort of there aren't any typos or anything in that. But basically, it's 2 parts. Part 1, you will be given a list of 10 resources to review and evaluate. There's some videos, there's a podcast, and then there's like one or two scholarly articles, then there's some web articles, and then you're going to pull out 5 factual claims that you think um, are backed up by credible evidence in those resources, and you need to use at least 3 of those resources. In part 2, we're going to give you 2 articles to read, and you will fill out a chart like the chart in assignment 4. So it's very similar to the charts you've been filling out all along, except it has all of the information. So if you've noticed, each time we have an assignment, there's a few more things we have to answer in the chart. And so for this assignment, it's a lot of things you're answering because we've gone through a lot of the book now. So I think I think this assignment's going. I'm really excited about it. The topic that we're doing is immigration, so all of the readings and viewings will be about immigration. So I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, I'll have it posted early next week. That's it.